Hi, I'm Ashley.
I'm Maddie.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about Montaigne and higher education. It's gonna be fun. So,
all right, to get started, the definition of
pedant. I have one that says a person who is excessively concerned with minor details and rules or with displaying academic learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I thought that was, in this day and age.
You know, I had heard that word before, but I never really, understood what it was. And now that we actually, discussed it in class and we heard about Montaigne talk about it, it clicks.
Yeah.
So much. When you hear a word and you learn a definition and you immediately start seeing it everywhere in your life.
I just kind of want to look at people and go, pedant.
Yeah.
Pedant.
You're going to be like, peasant? You're saying it wrong.
No,
pedant.
You don't understand.
No.
You fools.
Yeah, so clearly we are of the opinion that those are very prevalent in our education system today.
Yes.
Especially higher learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Montaigne had this idea that nothing at all could be known, or it was our senses would deceive us, so there's no way we could actually know anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the pedant thing really irked him a lot.
Yeah.
So
as you can tell, because he wrote
a lot about
it. He was not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about education. Let's start with what Montaigne, let's talk about what our education system looks like today.
Well.
And then we can, evaluate it.
I mean, coming from a student perspective,
mm-hmm.
not only me, but I think, the same 5 things
mm-hmm.
I hear complained about with every student. The first one is that our education glorifies memorization
mm-hmm.
and, shoving as much information into your brain and then forgetting it and
mm-hmm.
getting the good grades
mm-hmm.
more than they actually value understanding,
mm-hmm.
which leaves a lot of people kind of at a loss when they get out of the workforce.
Yeah.
And then there's a high pressure on academic success and less fostering of relationships, which makes it hard when you're trying to collaborate with people and you're so used to just studying. You don't know how to interact. And it's
every
really hard.
Interaction that you have is very superficial.
Exactly.
And it's not actually connection or bouncing off one of another. It's just kind of it's usually one person going in with this exact set of things that they wanted to say
mm-hmm.
and things that they wanted from the other people, and then once they have that, it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't see this philosophical kind of discussion being generated
mm-hmm.
all the time, even in philosophy classes. No. Which part of that is just no one really wants to jump in and say something wrong. So,
but that's the thing, we are grown up in a culture where we've made it such a stigma to be wrong.
Yeah.
That if you say something, no one will speak up,
mm-hmm.
and they'll wait to see the answer, and if they don't get it, they're just well, that's what that is,
yep.
And people will say things that are opposite of what their opinion is,
mm-hmm.
because they're just well, I don't want to be left out, and we don't have this constructive place
mm-hmm.
to have these conversations,
mm-hmm.
which is a huge issue.
Yeah, and you can tell that different classes in different places are actually trying to find that structure,
mm-hmm.
but either they haven't found it yet, or with the way that everything else about higher learning is set up, it's just not. I just don't see it becoming a very true and genuine thing anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think not only Montaigne would have an issue with how our education system is,
mm-hmm.
but Socrates would have an issue.
Yeah.
And pretty much any philosopher up until the point where it became scholastic and it's just memorization,
mm-hmm.
I think would have an issue with just us having information regurgitated at us and us not being able to actually physically partake in our education. Mm-hmm. I think they'd have an issue.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think in high school, I think there is a difference between high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
I think college does actually get you more involved. But I think in high school, that was something that was really bad. And maybe it was the fact that, once you graduate high school, you go into your focus. So I went from taking all of those gen eds. So you had algebra and you had geography and yada yada yada. And then I went into political science, history, English. I no longer had these things where I really strictly had to memorize these theories and these theorems, and I had to regurgitate them on an exam. Since most of my things became paper exams, or it was short answer and stuff like that. And I think that actually really helped.
Mm-hmm.
But then it only helps to a certain point. And so is there anything in our system currently that you think would be agreeable with like Montaigne and Socrates and all of these past philosophers?
I do have one class that I actually feel it's the class that I've learned the most in, and I know I'm going to retain information from it. And it's a really small. There's only 6 people in the class.
Oh, okay.
And it's what it was is the teacher structured it so we did an entire research project on a Native American tribe from North Dakota.
Okay.
And all of the information we were allowed to look up, like she would know if we looked up anything else, was old documents. So every piece of information we had to write a 40-page paper on this tribe.
Wow.
And so, but the thing is, so we would read whatever documents we were, and we would go in, and the teacher wasn't regurgitating information. She would give us, like, background, so we understood the context.
Yeah.
But she would make us talk about it, and be like, okay, how did you read this? Versus how did you read this?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it helped because I read something one way, another person read it a different way, and somehow we came to a consensus on, like, oh, this is what they were talking. Because sometimes you don't, with those old-timey writers, and I feel like if a class was more, let me go search, the teacher direct me towards my resources.
Yeah.
Let me go search for the answers, and then come together with other students, and the teacher there, because she'll help guide.
Yeah.
But come together with other students and the teacher there, and we have a discussion, and where I'm like, oh, I'm learning this. That is more exciting for a student.
It is more exciting.
It's more exciting. I have learned vastly more, like, I just regurgitate that information to people because I know, like, it's like, know it. I don't know. So I feel like we did more seminar sort of things where it's like, you go look for the answers, then you come back to me. But I just don't know with these huge, with the amount of kids going to college nowadays and professors, like, I don't know if it would ever be possible for that to happen.
And then I also want to say, like, I feel like teachers go in with that intention a lot to be like, no, I want them to do the work. I just want to give them a guide. And then students fall behind so much because that requires a lot more work than just like not studying up until the day before the test and then trying to like memorize everything, even though that is how we learn more. I feel like this is one difference that is just something that can't be fixed. But I feel like back when all of these philosophers were writing, is the people that were really pursuing their education were doing it to pursue education, while as here people are just pursuing a degree. So I think it has a lot, it has a big difference between the two in the way that not only the teachers will like produce the material that the students need to learn, but also the way that the students actually care about what they're learning. So I think that we in a way appreciate when we actually have a class that we learn, like, and retain things in, but then at the same time, it's kind of, if every single one of our classes was like that, it would be like, well, I'm taking 18 credit hours because 2 of my classes are like super easy, but if every single one of them required just like, not just reading, but like retaining all this information and coming to class every day with all of this crazy seminar stuff, I just feel like I feel like that would be the collapse of a university or like a department. Well, and that's sad.
It's terrible because, I mean, as much as I love that class, there were times when I have literally had to not do other homework because it was taking up all my time. And I was happy to do it because I was excited about it, but that also put me at a disadvantage in my other classes. Yeah. And so how do you think we could change the culture around that? And is there a way to do that?
I think one thing is that in high school, like just starting out in this, like, first of all, in our society in general, that is so driven towards, it's almost more like numerical as opposed, it's like quantitative over qualitative. They would much rather see you like take all these classes and have this and this and this on your resume and have the so-and-so degrees. Whereas only few things in our society actually take into account like the quality of what we're doing. So like, if we have like 7 internships and they were shit.
Okay, we'll bleep it out.
Okay. So if you had like 7 internships and they just weren't really that important to what you were doing, but you were doing them because you wanted to put something on your resume, as opposed to like 2 super quality internships, people may not want to pursue those as much just because they would rather put something on their resume more so, which once again goes into because employers and schools may not always look at your resume to look and be like, I bet that was a really quality experience that they had, as opposed to like, well, their resume's stacked. So I think it's something that would have to change in our culture, period, not just universities. I think it would have to start in high school, and it would also have to change on the part of employers and everything, but I just don't really see that happening.
I would be interested to see if we change the way we did resumes, because I mean we both want to maybe eventually go to law school.
Yes.
So on that, a lot of what they're looking for is what did they do? And like not necessarily how much you did, but like were you invested in something for a good amount of time. So when I was talking to one of the law schools, what they told me was that they were more likely to give a scholarship to someone who had left for a couple years, gone and worked, or gone into Peace Corps, than a student who had gotten straight A's, was super involved in college. And it was interesting to me because I'm like, okay, so what's the point?
Okay, because this is exactly
like,
what
what's
I'm
the
doing.
point? You know? What's the point? And then there's like, well, they have more quality experiences. Like, but you don't know my experience.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're going to look at my resume versus I don't know, I'm sure. I'm not saying the Peace Corps is not an amazing experience. But like someone who works in corporate America, how do you know that that's better than my college experience as an anthropology major? Like, how do you know that that's better? The thing is, you don't. But if we change the resume system where I could say, like, instead of, this is the job I had, this is what I did, just basic stuff, be like, hey, here are the top 3 most life-changing experiences for me. This is why, and this is how it changed my life, and this is why I want to go to law school. Because you have a personal statement.
Yeah.
But it's not the same, because it's just like, well, what if I have multiple factors?
Yeah.
You know? So if we change that, I think employers would actually get better candidates.
I think so too.
Because just because you have good grades does not mean anything.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Because, like, I mean, people who have to work 40, 50 hours a week and go to school, they're not going to have good grades as people whose parents pay for everything. And that's not, I'm not saying that the people whose parents pay for everything don't work hard, but there's a clear difference.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it's a very clear difference, too, that, okay, yeah, so I'm just going to go back to your question earlier. Is there anything that I think we can change to help facilitate a better environment for actual learning? I think it actually needs to be employers. And I think what they need to do is invest more time in reading through resumes. Because if they invest more time in reading through resumes and, like, actually finding, like, candidates that have, like, not just the good grades and everything and not necessarily just experience, but, like, quality experience, and maybe even in unconventional ways, then I think that will make the direction that everyone goes more towards learning and less towards just having a stacked resume.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, like, when you change the end, everything else will shift towards it gradually. It wouldn't be a quick change, but it would change eventually.
Yeah. I also think that's something that majorly needs to change in our education system, and it has to an extent, is the idea, kind of like the pedant, or the pedant, that they're the ideal. Like, Montaigne literally writes a whole essay about how that's not what education should be. It should be about understanding, not just, like, learning or putting on this air of, like, oh, I know more than everyone because I can use big words. In higher education, that's the ideal. Like, you see the best students and the students that the professors are all over, like, putting actual effort into, are those students, instead of the students who may not on the outside be smart, and it might take them a second, and they don't take into account that different brains work differently. Yeah. Because people who are really good at math may be horrible at English. Yeah. And people who are really good at English may be horrible at math. And it's not that either one is stupid, but one is going to think they're stupid because the professor won't put the effort in. Yeah. Or a student will appear smarter and, like, push, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced when someone in your class just clearly thinks they're smarter than you. And you just sit there and you're like...
And when do you want to butt into a conversation because you feel like... First of all, even if you did all of the assigned things for that class, when someone just directs this conversation in a completely different way, you're really afraid to speak up just because you are thinking, like, am I gonna, like, am I just, like, completely lost? Is this something that we've already, like, touched on and I didn't even realize it?
Yeah.
Or...
People don't ask questions anymore. And we were talking earlier about how, like, Socrates would hate this education system because his was all about questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you're wrong doesn't mean you don't question.
Mm-hmm.
You, like, I mean, all his dialogues, it's
mm-hmm.
someone coming to him, asking him a question,
and
then he asking them the questions, because he's, like, pushing their learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just feel like, I think it would be an interesting social experiment to take kids from preschool
mm-hmm.
and put them in a more Socratic or seminar-like classroom
mm-hmm.
from an early age.
Yeah.
And just have them work together to solve problems. And then continue that on
mm-hmm.
through college. And I wonder if, one, there would not be so much division
mm-hmm.
in the world because people are like,
I can
have a different opinion than you,
but
but we can have a conversation and we can problem solve together instead of just being like, you're wrong and I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
It's just like, because I mean, Socrates clearly disagreed with people. I mean, he was executed. So like, I mean, but that's not the solution. That's not what I'm going for.
So just kill everyone.
Yeah. But like, I think it would be a very interesting social experience to see how those kids grow up and how their brains work differently than our brains would.
I would be interested in that too. One thing though, and I didn't do a ton of research on this, but we're also just so accustomed to the American way of education and learning. And so I'd be really interested in seeing if there is like almost exactly what we just said somewhere else.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
And in like a smaller country that might not necessarily have
I did some research into like Asian countries because they have like some of the smartest people.
Yeah.
But theirs is not actually like Socratic. It's different than ours because ours is like memorize grades, blah blah blah. Theirs is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Hard work is what they value and it's what their education values. So it's like the harder you work, the better you do, and the more you're valued. Which I think it's not a perfect model, but it's a
lot different.
It's a lot different. And one thing that I think it was Singapore does was, well, first of all, some of those kids go to school 7 days a week, which is not. I just that would never work in America.
No,
I don't think it ever should work in America.
No,
but I'm just saying that's what they do. But in Singapore, they do a thing where you go to grade school for like 6 years, and then you go to 3 years of secondary ed, I think.
Okay.
And then you choose like whether you want to go to college, like an institute to teach you like an applied skill. Like you can pick whatever. You could. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like instead of having like, I understand the whole American view. Like you need to have a fully well-rounded education, but I'm like, I had to take geology.
Yeah.
I'm never going to need to know that.
Yeah.
I never wanted to know that. I took my basics in high school. Why in college am I still learning?
And one thing that I take away from that, too, is it's like, not only do I have to spend all of this money on this class that, even though, yes, it will be a well-rounded education, I feel like that, like, whatever is required for that class, because I would, like, hate myself if I got anything less than an A in a class like that, then I have to put all of this time and effort into this class, when I would be taking away from the things that I actually would really love to invest myself in, and would be able to have a better experience in those classes and a better conversation if I wasn't taking away because of this class that means nothing to me and I will never remember it anyway, because those lower level classes are 100% memorization. Yeah.
I would love for our thing not to be A, B, C, D, E, or not E, A, B, C, D, F. Pass, fail. But the only issue with that is in hard classes like microbiome, who do you pass and who do you fail? Because in our classes it can be based upon who's doing the reading, who's participating in class, like that's easy. Yeah, but in those classes, but I would like pass fail better because like being a type A personality, I have all A's right now, and it's just like the thought of getting a B makes me have a panic attack. And like,
what year are you again?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay.
So like, I have 2.5 more years of this, and I don't think I can survive. Like, I have lost hair. I have literally cried on the phone. And my mom's like, college is supposed to be fun. I was just like, yeah, but when you're trying to go to law school for free, not very fun.
Yeah, you're like, college is supposed to be fun, but also, like, there's so many other things that I have to be accomplishing right now.
Yeah, and I'm highly driven. Like, I want to be a lawyer. Like, I mean, if you want to be a lawyer, you're pretty highly driven. Like, you want to be a lawyer, I want to be, we're highly driven people. And so, clearly, it's going to affect us more than someone who's just kind of, like, doesn't care. And there's no wrong or right way to be. Mm-hmm. But since I am, college is harder for me. Yeah. You know? Because I'm not okay with a B. Yeah. Like, I panic.
Oh my goodness, I have something to tell you later. Okay. It's about B's and A's. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let's move. Yeah, we kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think we gained some stuff out of that conversation.
So, okay, but let's go back to Montaigne and how maybe he would have solved these issues if he were here. Mm-hmm. Now, he was very witty and sarcastic, which...
Because somewhere in here he just says, like, don't teach him. Like, just don't send him away. And somewhere in here he talks about, like, a farmer or someone that hasn't ever had any type of super formal education, and how whenever there's, like a political question or something like that, he goes to him and asks it, because it's, like, the most unadulterated question, and he just answers with what he thinks. He doesn't, like, say, oh no, I need to take time to evaluate all sides. He just kind of comes out with what he thinks, and I think that's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting. So in this day and age, I mean, we can't.
We can't.
But if Montaigne were to have his own college, what would that look like?
Chaos.
But would it be educational chaos?
I think it would be... I don't think it would look one way. I feel like if you were to have, like, an educational structure like Montaigne talks about, it would have to be something that's very individual for every person. Okay. And there would 100%... there is no way there could be a grading system. Because I feel like the second you put into place a grading system, that's when people care about the grade. Mm-hmm. And they no longer care at all about what they're actually learning. And I really like when professors, for us, are like, I would rather you learn and, like, participate in things like that, as opposed to just, like, regurgitate knowledge. And then I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. I still just need an A. Like, yeah. So it's like, as long as there's an A relying on anything I'm doing, I'm going to treat it much differently than if I was just going to go into it and be like, I'm going to learn as much as I can, because that's what I want to do. Yeah. So I feel like that's what Montaigne's... There would be no grades.
I would love that. Yeah. Because the thing is, I like... And not everyone's this way, and I understand that, but I like learning. Mm-hmm. I would love to go to college for the rest of my life if I didn't have to do grades. Mm-hmm. You know, if I could just sit in a lecture and just learn, I would freaking love that.
I really like lectures,
But you just can't... Well, one, it's way too expensive. And two, grades, like, you just can't. And I wish we lived in a world where Montaigne's school could exist.
It would definitely be interesting.
Because, and the thing is, the way it would have to be is it would have to be a very, if it were to happen, have to be a very rigorous selection process. Mm-hmm. So that you got people in there who legitimately wanted to invest in their education and not just memorize. They're not going for a degree, they're going for specific learning. I don't know how that would work.
Because we're so used to a system that's completely opposite.
Well, because, I mean, you know, so the C's get degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I've never understood that mentality.
No.
But it's students like that, too, though. They're like, C's get degrees that are like, sometimes...
Sorry, Hi. Hello. Just come on in. No, we're going to edit all of it. We've cussed like 3 times. We're going to edit. We're going to edit. Sorry. No, you're good. All right.
What were we talking about really quick?
Montaigne, how his crazy fun school. It'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, C's to get degrees.
C's get degrees.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Okay. I kind of have my thought. Well, because so what I was gonna say was, like, the C's get degrees people are the ones that put in, like, less time into, like, the memorization and stuff like that, but sometimes there's the ones that, like, come to class with, like, the most, like, confidence in saying something, because they're like, you're good. Like,
That's not the most fun in college, not gonna lie.
oh yeah, no, they definitely have the most fun in college.
Which, like, I'm wondering, like, they have the best friends going out because they had the most fun in college, and, like, they had more good memories, so I'm just like, what am I doing
Am I
this
doing
for?
something wrong?
Like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Has this been recording? Oh, good. We're 25 minutes.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I would love to see Montaigne's school come into act. I would love to see a Montaigne Socrates hybrid school.
I don't know if I would love to attend it, since I'm so used to the structure. I think it would really freak me out to, like, go into a system where it's like, okay, do your best, and then I'm like, nope. There's, like, no number associated with my success. Like,
oh, I would love that.
See,
that's how our brains work.
It would scare me a lot. I would love to see it. I would love to see how it works for other people, and then choose to participate if I want.
See, the thing is that, like, I always learn best when it's, like, very harsh, like, you're being an idiot. Like, I learn best from harsh criticism. Okay. So, like, having someone like Socrates or Montaigne being like, you're being stupid, I would be like, oh, like, okay, gotcha. But that's just how I learned good, because, like, if you sugarcoat it for me, I'm gonna think I'm doing fine.
Okay, yes, you know? That's so true.
So, like, unless you're just, like, flat out, like, you're being, I almost cussed again, stupid, which is why I think a Socrates Montaigne school would be great for me, because it would just be like, if you don't show up to class with your crap together, you're gonna get absolutely brutalized.
Yeah.
Which also might motivate people
to do
well
stuff,
so that you don't get brutalized. Because I mean, if we change the culture,
law school, cold calling, like, I don't. Cold calling is so scary, but it's like, I know that law school, they give you so much stuff to read. There's no way that you can read all of it all the time. But, like, in undergrad, I feel like cold calling, I'm going to say this, and one of my teachers is actually going to do it, but, like, I feel like it should be a thing more. Oh, yeah. Because
it would hold people accountable.
I feel like
it would hold me accountable.
College in ways is way too hard in some areas, and then in other ways we take it way too easy on people.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't hold students reliable or, like, accountable for, like, the things that they need to be doing, like coming to class, like, having done readings and things like that. But then in other ways, like, just, like, the demands that we put on, like, the coursework that they should be doing then is, like, insane. And part of the reason that we don't do, like, any of it is because it's hard to do all of it. And so a lot of people go in it with a, like, all or none mentality. Yeah. And when you go in with a mentality like that, it's really hard to get anything done.
See, and that's where I struggle a lot, because, like, when I don't show up to class with reading, I literally sit there and sweat because I'm stressed. Because I'm like, they're gonna know. And it's like, I've never been cold called in my life. And when I have, I am so good at talking a lot and pretending like I know what's going on. Yep. That no one really knows that I don't know what's going on. Graham, please don't cold call me in class.
Like exactly what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Is that, like, the people, so, like, yeah, so, like, the people that
don't
come to class. Okay.
I'm a pedant.
Okay.
I'm, like, not kidding. I am one. I criticize
when I read that description, I was like, oh.
When it says excessively concerned with minor details, I was like,
with minor details and rules, or with displaying
academic
not
learning.
Necessarily, like, learning, but I definitely am fixated on just, like, making it look like I know what I'm talking about.
But that's what we're pressured to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's just, like, around you, I don't mind looking like an idiot. But if I'm around people I'm not comfortable with, anyone I think is smarter than me. But that also comes with a degree of, when you do talk like that, people feel stupid when they're around you, and they will, like, kind of, I don't know, some of the people I work with, they're great people, but they think I'm, like, way smarter than them, and so they talk about how, like, oh, when I'm in prison, like, you can come get me out and stuff, and it's just like, but it's just, like, it takes a toll, because it's just, like, but I don't feel like that's you. Yeah. You know, you're smarter than you think you are. Yeah. And when you say, because I care about you, it's just, like, I don't like you seeing me as this person who's so superior intellectually. Yeah. When it's all just a show. Yeah. Because I think you're so smart. It's like, I'm actually not. I just work hard and I care.
Do you ever feel like you look at, like, grades or, like, your resume or something, and you're like, I'm a fraud.
Yep, 100%.
I feel that way so much.
100%.
So, this past week, the past month, I've been inducted into 2 academic honor societies, Phi Kappa Phi and Phi Beta Kappa. And both of them are something about the love of learning. I should have them memorized, but I don't. But being in them, I feel like a fraud almost. I'm like, I have the grades and I have the experience and everything, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I just listen to people talk around me and I'm like, you know so many different things than I do.
Yeah.
And then, but it's so different because you can say things. It's just like, it's all a perspective. And that's what you said, is it's really just about hard work in the end. Because that's what got me there, is hard work. It wasn't like this superior brainwaves, and I wasn't just born better than everyone. It was just, it's just hard work.
I mean, my brother is 10 times as smart as me, but I have a far better GPA than him. And the thing is, like, he would be a better lawyer than I would be. But you would never know because he's not going to put in the effort to care. I'm going to be a better lawyer because I'm not going to show up to court and just wing it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not a thing. Except for people who can do that.
Yeah.
And
then they get awards for it in a class. And then...
Yep, they do get awards. And I don't know. Anyway, off on our tangent. I'm going to have to edit so much of this out.
Okay.
To Montaigne. So... 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Oh, the final fact we were talking about, and I wonder what Montaigne would think about this, because I didn't read anything where he said anything, but where some teachers in higher education institutions care more about research and publishing than actually teaching their students. And I know that's the case. I mean, not as bad as K State, because, like, faculty here is pretty good, and they're pretty hands-on. I mean, at least in my experience. I guess I don't speak for everyone.
No, I agree.
But I would say they're pretty hands-on, and they're pretty, like, you can kind of just walk in and talk to them, and I like that a lot. Like, I kind of need that. But, I mean, I've heard at Ivy Leagues, like, you can't get an appointment.
Yeah.
You can't even, they will not give you the time of day. If you don't get it, sucks.
It's a bummer. You got an Ivy League, you should have known it. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like from Montaigne's point of view, as a teacher, either he would be like, okay, that's great that they don't give a crap, because then it forces you to learn. But on the other hand, he also, I don't know about him, because on the other hand, I feel like he was taught. Someone put time into him, so on some level, he has to value that.
I think that he... I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't be on one side over the other. I feel like it would be more like, definitely, like, understands a perspective. But I feel like he would be more so on the side of the student that's being, like, neglected. As opposed to the side of the professor that just wants to study. Yeah, I actually definitely think he would be on the side of the student.
Because Socrates would definitely be on the side of the student.
Yeah.
100%.
I agree.
So, alright. Well, that's our conversation.
Our right inside, that wasn't even a conversation.